And welcome back. When people usually think of gardening, they often think about a sizable outdoor space set aside in the backyard. Well, that's not always possible. Our next guest is looking to change that perception, specifically when it comes to lifestyle as well as beauty. Brooklyn Rooftop Botanicals is a rooftop beauty farm that spans over 3 rooftops and growing beauty botanical extracts to create products out of. Joining us to share more details is the CEO and founder of Brooklyn's Rooftop Botanicals, Liana Blomquist. And Liana, good to have you.
Thank you very much, Darren. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, so talk to me about this here, because as we say, we talk about, outdoor gardening, people have a certain kind of perception, but you got something different with Brooklyn Rooftops.
This is the first rooftop beauty farm in New York that does span 3 different rooftops, but I have my original rooftop here in Williamsburg. There's also one very close by. That's the 3rd rooftop that I've established. And then there's also one in downtown Brooklyn. So there are 3 rooftops that span around 2,000 square feet in total. And what's so special about this is definitely that I am growing lots and lots of beauty botanicals, over 40 different ones, to basically create extractions and create beauty products out of. I do have a main crop that I grow to create the bulk of the extractions, but then I have some other botanicals that are a little bit more obscure to then test and learn with and try and see what I can kind of create out of them.
You've got a great outdoor space. You're converting it now. It's going towards beauty botanicals, but it's not always the most common place on a rooftop.
No, it isn't. And I am so incredibly lucky to have this space, my own space. I definitely, with the pandemic last year, it was actually completely crazy to have this space and be able to come outside. And it's definitely, if you have space, great. But if you don't, it's also, I think people just have to understand that you can really create a garden no matter what. You don't necessarily have to have a very large outdoor space. You can have a tiny little windowsill as well. So I think people have to think differently when it comes to gardening and not necessarily thinking about it as so much of a space perspective. But it's definitely been very, very great to have this space and expanding into my different rooftops. So yeah.
And recently you just got a certification in horticulture.
So I am not completed yet. I have one more class,
Okay.
but yes, I'm going to complete it this year. It just depends on getting that one last class. Just so much going on, obviously, with growing these botanicals, being on the different rooftops, and trying to expand out into my future adventures. But yes, it's been an amazing experience doing this certificate. Obviously my background was in beauty and global marketing and product development. So changing my whole career to become essentially an urban rooftop farmer, I kind of understood I had to get, some additional skills and a different certification to really give me an edge. So
For yourself, share with me a little bit about this perspective here, because you're talking about an urban market, you're talking about New York City. And when you're on the outside New York City, you're dealing a lot with weather. How difficult is a growing season, given the fact the kind of weather that we see across New York City?
yeah, it is very difficult just because we have this heat island effect happening in New York City. So everything, the heat that happens here and the temperatures that happen here is sometimes 10 degrees more than what you see in the outskirts of New York City, in Long Island and in the upper New York boroughs. So, it's very difficult to grow up here because you have to take the heat into consideration. You have to also take wind into consideration. You have to take, obviously, your growing mediums into consideration and the different plants that can survive up here. So you have to really think about all the different factors. And again, not every season's the same. Just as a typical example, last year in the spring and summer, it was a lot drier than what it was this year. This year, it was kind of hot, cold, and humid all throughout. So, it's interesting to see how the plants from last year, how they grew this year, how different it was as an experience. But it's always about kind of understanding your environment and kind of, taking your learnings and kind of adapting to what's going on. So it's very tricky. You have to really pay attention and really understand the different plants and their needs to make sure that you're adapting them to that specific environment appropriately.
We might have somebody out there watching saying, listen, the season is getting ready to change, things are changing over. What kind of tips would you offer for those persons who are trying to deal with this season as it begins to shift and transition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people forget that there isn't just the spring and the summer season, growing season. You also have the fall growing season in New York City. So right now is actually the time to start prepping for the fall growing season. So looking at what you currently have, what you're currently growing, and making sure that you're harvesting all your flowers, your seeds, whatever's left in terms of fruits, your stems. Also, any cuttings for propagation. Actually, now is really the time to do so. And then you need to make sure that you're also cleaning up your soil, making sure you're getting rid of diseased materials. And also soil amending. So after the first growing season, you have your soil that has been depleted from a lot of its nutrients and the pH might be off. So it's really this good time to test your soil and to make sure you're amending it so the future crops can do very well. And then you also have to obviously start your seeds. So really right now is the time to start growing your indoor seeds so that you can then plant them out as the temperatures start cooling down in the next couple of weeks.
And talk to me about what you're doing right now. I mean, obviously, I hate to say it, but we're getting closer towards the end of the summer. You don't want to enjoy it for as long as we possibly can, but share with me about where you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so what I'm doing is harvesting the rest of my beauty botanicals. I still have a lot of things that I'm harvesting for, what I'm trying to kind of create going forward. And I'm doing exactly what we just talked about. So I'm really kind of getting all my seeds, propagating any beauty botanicals that I want to grow more of in the future. Definitely getting some seeds, checking my soil, making sure it's clean, making sure it has all the proper nutrition. And I'm really, getting prepped for more growing of beauty botanicals. I have my large harvest that successfully grew this spring and summer. So now let's continue going for the fall.
Yeah. Before we go really quickly, how can people see your work?
So I'm all over Instagram. I'm all over TikTok. I have 6,000 followers on Instagram and 16 on TikTok. I also have my website, brooklynrooftopbotanicals.com, where I post tons and tons of content on how to grow and how to also formulate some of your own products using beauty botanicals or even synthetics. So you can definitely visit me there.
Well, we want to let you know that we're out of time for this segment, but certainly some great work. Got to remind our viewers to make sure that they see you on Instagram as well as TikTok and see the great work this Brooklyn Beauty Botanicals is doing. Thanks much.
Thank you so much, Daren.
All righty. Well, listen, I need our viewers to stay with us. We got more show. Don't go anywhere. Open is going to continue coming up right after this.